this is interesting right here because this doesn't often happen. Fam?
Yeah, okay, so Donald Trump has a case, right? He's made several demands and lawsuits as to why he thinks this election was fraudulent. And also we're going to talk about why the CIA may want him out. Now, first of all, William Barr authorized a probe. Okay, he did this a few days ago where he authorized the Justice Department to a voter fraud probe. Now, again, this is where I get irritated.
Good.
It is election fraud. It is election fraud. It is election fraud. A voter fraud is individuals. If Pasta goes in there and tries to vote twice, that's voter fraud. Election fraud is on a massive scale. You're not going to get these numbers with voter fraud. People aren't just going to go and volunteer to commit felonies because they love Trump so much or because they love Biden so much. This is on a massive scale. These numbers you get is because of voter fraud. So I just wanted to point that out real quick, that William Barr initiated this probe. That was a win for the Donald Trump administration and what they're trying to do.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, too, are trying to say that the ballot harvesting, if one individual grabs a bunch of ballots and he brings it in, that's voter fraud. No, who is he doing on the behalf of is the question. That becomes election fraud.
Exactly.
You know, I think a lot of people are hung up on the right. Excuse me, I'm not trying to pick on you, but this whole mentality that, we need to have IDs, and we could have that argument and stuff like that. But it's not individuals that are going to go in there and overturn the election. The Democrats are not going to talk to their socialist friends and get a bunch of illegals to go and swing the election. It's not going to happen that way. Is that something we need to address because we want to make sure we have free and fair elections? Of course. But you got to keep your eye on the right spot and where these elections are being swung. And it's not being swung by the individual voters. It's being swung by somebody who's got the keys to the kingdom who we haven't found out yet. You know, I obviously think it's the Democratic establishment, but it might be the elite.
I think it's the establishment, period. And there's some Republicans in there, the Bush types, the McCain types, and then there's some Democrats in there that are doing this right now. Yeah. So that's what's going on here. So okay.
I believe that too, really quick, because Fox is now taking a free fall because they've kind of taken a stand and you know, the whole Virginia thing, which we're talking about a lot of these states. We haven't even got into Virginia yet.
Yeah.
And I remember Johnny talking about Virginia, going, check this out. Like, look at this, and he pulls it up. Donald Trump's still up by like a ton of votes, 60% in, but yet they called it to Biden. You know, so there's a lot of fugazi stuff going over there as well, but it's kind of crazy. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to say too, CNN today projected Georgia for Joe Biden and projected
Arizona?
Not Arizona. They projected Arizona yesterday, and then they also projected North Carolina for Trump. People are saying, no, they project it, but the way they project it, people take as calling it. Yeah. That's the thing. When I say, they're projecting it, people argue, well, they never actually said that. No, that's how they get away with it. They put it all over media as if they're calling, as if it's fact, and people take it as fact, even though they can back off and say, oh, we never actually called it. Yeah. But that's something that they do, just so you know, because I've gotten a lot of attacks on that, and I'm like, do you not realize what they're doing here? So Donald Trump has these assertions, right? And here are some of them. The non-valid ballots, for example, dead voters who moved, and just in general non-valid. And then the machines and the software flipping is the other one. So here's the evidence. You want to go ahead and go?
Well, he's saying that the ballots were illegally brought in, or they're not allowing poll watchers from the other side, bipartisan, to go over there and validate those signatures. They're keeping them out. And there's a lot of inaccuracies, which we see. And this is just normal behavior a lot of times. It's never been called out, never been taken to the courts, and it's something that should be looked upon.
It's nothing new.
It's nothing new, but it's a little bit different in this case because we had the COVID election with all these ballots, and it's nuts. And as we go back in history, when we go down the road, when we look back in history, we're going to look at this as the COVID election. But that's the thing, and those things are kind of mentioned in the lawsuits. But also, too, the way we have to look at these things when we talk about the machines and the software flipping, they're mathematical improbabilities seen by parabolic effects, which we were just talking about right now, by mathematicians studying pattern analysis, okay?
Yeah.
So I know that's a little bit like we were talking about this, this is why this stuff is so boring, but we were looking back on this stuff when we look at Tim Canova. As you know, I'm friends with Tim Canova. If you haven't seen the video, he's a friend of the show, and we talk about election integrity all the time, especially when it comes to software flipping and what happened in 2018. And the mathematical probabilities were just off the chart that he was able to get, that he was locked into 5% on each line in each category, whatnot, So he feels it was some sort of an algorithm. Now you can't get in and expect the software, but this is how a lot of mathematicians and, like I say, pattern analysis. I never knew what a parabolic effect. Like I told you guys, I thought it was when you had the what do you call it, the Multilinean Falcon, it takes off and all those white lines. I thought that was a parabolic effect, but was watching Dr. Shiva yesterday, and he explained to me, and you probably know this, and Johnny knows this, you guys, you A in your statistics, is when you're charting something and you can see this normal kind of, line going, and all of a sudden there's an effect where something happens. It's a red flag for pattern analysis to go, wait a second, something's wrong here. We saw it with the Biden Bernie thing, like it was going along, and all of a sudden it was this big, huge spike. Well, there's a reason for that, and elections just don't work that way. Because when you think about all the mail-in ballots that come in, the majority still come through the mail. So it's like a deck of cards getting shuffled. So usually it will be set early, and that kind of trend will be set early. That's why when you see it get to 40%, and when it's okay for the establishment to call it at 59%, well, he goes, we can see the pattern the way it's going. Bernie doesn't have enough room.
Right.
So when it works to their favor, they'll call it early. But in this particular situation, we'll say, wait, let's hold on. And then you have this parabolic effect of all these votes coming in for Joe Biden.
Right.
And it's like, oh, that's normal. Yeah. No, it's not.
They should have. Otherwise, they wouldn't have stopped the count and said, oh, well, we're going to let people go to sleep and continue that. If they had been fair, they would have completely just across the board kept everything going as normal. The fact that they stopped in every swing state is already a red flag, aside from everything else. That is a red flag in itself. And the mainstream media coverage is, of course, a tool that they use to make that happen. Yeah.
So you said the majority of these lawsuits, Trump's campaign's lawsuits, were filed in Pennsylvania, Nevada, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Michigan. There were some losses today on the state courts in Michigan that we can talk about eventually. But there's still a lot of stuff going on. And remember that at the end of the day, if he needs to go up to the Supreme Court, he's going to go kick it up there. I suspect he's going to try everything, every weapon he has, he's going to use until this is over. Now, we were talking about this other day. This tells about a lot of the behavior right here in Pennsylvania. And I think also that there's a smoking gun here. So I'm very interested to see what happens with the lawsuit in Pennsylvania, fam.
So, so let's just look at the lawsuit. I'm not going to read all of it. You guys can look it up. It's right there. Most people haven't looked, except on the right, haven't really brought up this lawsuit. They've just brushed it off. So this is what he has, and this is the complaint. And so the number one, the introduction goes, American citizens deserve fair elections. Every legal, not illegal vote should be counted, and no government power, be it state or federal, may deny American citizens the right to observe the process, which, by the way, they both have been kicked out.
Johnny's been kicked out twice now.
Yeah, so this whole independent observers observe. No, that's bullshit. That doesn't happen.
You kicked out in Florida and California, so.
And then they said, we must protect our democracy with complete transparency. We don't have either of those right now. Nothing less than the integrity of the 2020 presidential election is at stake in this action. Defendants, the very officials charged with ensuring the integrity of the election in Pennsylvania, have so mismanaged the election process that no one, not the voters and not President Trump's campaign, can have any faith that their most sacred and basic rights under the United States Constitution are being protected. Again, this has been happening for a long time. Bernie Sanders should have done this in 2016.
Yeah.
We would have him as president right now. This is nothing new. Welcome, Republicans, to looking at what has been happening for a long time. The evidence is plain that defendants have been and are blatantly violating the protections and procedures, including those enacted by the Pennsylvania General Assembly, vitally necessary to ensure that the votes of the citizens of Pennsylvania are not illegally diluted by invalid ballots and that the election is fair and free. The general election was effectively shrouded in secrecy. This is the third point. Democrat majority counties provided political parties and candidates, including the Trump campaign, no meaningful access or actual opportunity to review and assess mail-in ballots during the pre-canvassing meetings. This is very true. And of course, the vast majority of the election this time, because it was COVID, were mail-in ballots this time because it's COVID. So this is an unprecedented time where you are going to be looking at the mail-in ballots. Even though normally less people vote by mail, this time a lot of people voted by mail. And as Pasta said, it's not about the conservative votes coming via vote by mail. It's about the older votes and the people who are also less likely to waste time in line. So again, the people who are ardent supporters are going to go in line. But again, they also diminish the amount of polling locations and stuff because of COVID. So and they were talking about Pennsylvania, the counties in particular, and they processed 682,479 mail-ins and absentee ballots without review by the political parties and candidates. These are unprecedented numbers in Pennsylvania's election history. Rather than engaging in an open and transparent process to give credibility to Pennsylvania's brand new voting system, interesting that they have a brand new voting system, the processes were hidden during the receipt, review, and opening and tabulation of those votes in direct contravention of the election code.
So that as they get into this lawsuit, it gets deeper about what they were doing and the tactics they were shutting people out. Johnny,
the key thing that they say there is open and transparent process.
Yes.
It's not open and transparent
yes.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere we've been, it's been fucking secretive.
Yeah.
And 99.9%. And as we get into this whole process, you guys are going to also learn too. And everybody's going Dominion, Dominion, Dominion. No, all the other companies have the same capability in their machines to flip votes. In fact, it's not a bug; it's actually a feature within these computers if you put an algorithm in there. So, and we were just talking to Raj, and he was talking about as soon as you put a USB cord in there, you can implement an algorithm. You can probably hide an algorithm before you even get things started.
And Clay Curtis said it takes nothing, like for somebody that's a programmer to write a program and do what is whatever, and you can make it look like it's close. That's the whole part, is that you make it look like it's close. You don't make it you're not going to make it look like it's obvious. It's like, no, these programs are specifically written to make it look like it's close.
Yeah. Did you want to read anything else about this one now?
Yeah, I'm just going to
This is a long one. It's 105 pages, and there's a lot to look at.
No. I was
guys.
only going to look at the 12 points that we have.
Cool.
And then
number 7
I think number 8. Okay, so she is quoting here, the right to vote is protected in more than the initial allocation of franchise. Equal protection applies as well to the manner of its exercise. Having once granted the right to vote on equal terms, the state may not, by later arbitrary and disparate treatment, value one person's vote over that of another. This is, of course, citing the Bush versus Gore. This is important because, of course, that set a precedent. And unfortunately, then the Republicans were the ones doing the cheating. And as we all remember, Bush became president. We went to Iraq. History, the rest is history. We could have done something then. We didn't do it. And, of course, history repeats itself. All citizens, including Pennsylvanians, have rights under the United States Constitution, et cetera, et cetera. As evidenced by numerous sworn statements, defendants' egregious misconduct has included ignoring legislative mandates concerning mail-in ballots, which amounted to over 2.6 million of the approximately 6.75 million votes in Pennsylvania, including the mandate that mail-in ballots be postmarked on or before Election Day, and critically preventing plaintiffs' poll watchers from observing the receipt, review, opening, and tabulation of mail-in ballots. Those mail-in ballots are evaluated on an entirely parallel track to those ballots cast in person. So again, they were kept out from watching. Now people say, no, they could watch. No, they were barred from actually being able to see what was going on. This is how they get away with it. They completely.
Yeah. Well, they hide. They get. They don't let people get it. Listen, the main point of certification of a mail-in ballot is matching signatures. That's how you validate these across the board in every single state, okay? That's the main mechanism which we make sure these things are good or not good. Now, when you leave one party out or people out and you just have, your own people in there, of course people are going to kind of question the validity of these signatures and stuff. And they're even using AI software, which we talked about the other day, fam, where they're turning down the sensitivity really low.
Right.
So, the whole thing is that these ballots are going through without the proper validation, and therefore that gives you a mechanism to stuff the ballot box with unvalidated, not good ballots. I don't want to say they're dead people, fictional people, who knows what they are. But if you can't sit there and match the signatures and you can't match the voter,
right,
you're just leaving an open door for fuckery.
Okay, so these people observed and reported in numerous instances of election workers failing to follow the statutory mandates relating to 2 critical requirements, among other issues. 1, a voter's right to spoil their mail-in ballot at the polling place on Election Day and to then vote in person. And 2, the ability for voters to vote provisionally on Election Day when a mail-in ballot has already been received for them, but when they did not cast those mail-in ballots. So again, the provisional ballots come in here. We know all about provisional ballots, okay? The provisional ballots have been used countless times to disenfranchise people, specifically the more progressive voters who are voting for the more progressive candidate. We've seen seas of provisional ballots that I assure you were not counted in this election. So this is nothing new.
Here's the thing, too. Like, California's adopted this way now. Oh, if you have a mail-in ballot, you can go in there and, like, okay, they look you in the database, right, John? We did it the other day. You want to vote in person? We'll cancel your ballot through the computer, and then you go vote on the machines. Now you can do that here. Pennsylvania doesn't have that mechanism yet, and a lot of people don't. So if they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you have a mail-in ballot," "Oh no, I didn't get my mail-in ballot." Well, you can vote provisionally, and then maybe we'll count it after. So there's more ways also to kind of once again put fences and barriers in front of people. You know what I'm saying? Just by simply. And how do you change people's registration so it's not like I can take out a voter registration paper and put out John's name and his address and change him from Republican to Democrat if I have his basic information. And then when he goes to vote and say, I want to vote in the Democratic primary. Oh, you're registered as a Republican. Oh, can I switch? Oh, yeah, but you only get a conditional ballot now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to screw with people's shit. That's why when we get into this whole thing, there should be automatic registration for everybody when they turn 18 years old, no matter what. I mean, that's what we should be doing.
They muddy the waters too much, and that's done on purpose.
Yes.
And this one, I really want to read this one of these last points is... Additionally, plaintiffs have learned that certain county election boards were mailing unsolicited mail-in ballots to voters, despite the fact that they had not applied for a mail-in ballot for the general election, thus resulting in voters who received 2 ballots. The offending counties also failed to undertake any effort to ensure destruction of the duplicate ballots. I have to say, I was mailed a vote-by-mail ballot in the primary. This last primary that I never signed up for. Yeah. I never signed up for vote by mail, and I was mailed a vote by mail ballot. I am telling you that happens. It happened to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never signed up for that. I wanted to vote in person. Yeah. And so does this happen? Yes, it happens a lot.
In this particular case, I was talking to somebody yesterday. We were talking about the voter rolls and stuff. Anybody who was on that voter roll got a mail-in ballot sent to them. So people who didn't request them in California got them, and they did this in a lot of states this time. Then you got to start thinking, where do those mail-in ballots come from? If they're sent back, where do they go? Where do they end up? There's just ways to stuff a ballot box and get this machine to give you the count you want. So when they're giving out like confetti, it's just cause for red flags all over the place. Go ahead.
And just the last point, the right to vote includes not just the right to cast a ballot, but also the right to have it fairly counted if it is legally cast. The right to vote is infringed if a vote is canceled or diluted by a fraudulent or illegal vote, including without limitation when a single person votes multiple times. The Supreme Court of the United States has made this clear in case after case. Gray versus Sanders, every vote must be, quote, protected from the diluting effect of illegal ballots, end quote. Crawford versus Marion election. There is no question about the legitimacy or importance of the state's interest in counting only the votes of eligible voters. The disparate treatment of Pennsylvania voters and subjecting one class of voters to greater burdens of scrutiny than another violates equal protection guarantee because the right of suffrage can be denied by a debasement or dilution of the weight of a citizen's vote just as effectively as by wholly prohibiting free exercise of the franchise. Okay, so they're focused on mainly the ballots not being legal, the ballots not being verifiable, et cetera, in Pennsylvania in particular, because there was also that part where they said that they had the ballots that came after shouldn't have been counted, so they did win that victory, which we'll go over.
That's up next. Trey Wright, love you all. Speaking the truth, thank you for the
Trey.
Super Chat contribution, guys. And we love the fact that Stay Strong Convo, you were right. Thank you so much from
you guys.
Carl FXI. For the Super Chat contribution. I don't want to miss anybody, but we are going to go over that right now. Let's talk about that because that kind of gets into what's going on as far as what happened in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't read it, try to at least glance through it so you know where that's coming from.
So now, we were talking about what was also going on in Pennsylvania the other day as far as the Secretary of State going outside of over her head and outside of her litigation abilities. I mean, in other words, she went to the courts and she was able to at first extend the day of when these mail-in ballots can come in for 3 days. Okay,
right.
But this is the Secretary of State of her name is Bakchar. I can't even say her name right there. Kathy. She's a Secretary of State for Pennsylvania. She went to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and extended the deadline by 3 days in which ballots can come in. However, it states clearly that the legislation is the only one who has the right to make those decisions. So the courts did rule the fact that they put these ballots aside. Now, Biden still has a lead there, whatnot. He was going to be able to add to his lead if they counted these ballots. So now they're going to put him aside. So as you can see, this court case and what Giuliani's trying to do and the Trump campaign is trying to do is they're trying to eliminate some ballots, okay? Devalue them of sorts, saying these were not validated. We have to take these out of the count. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're trying to do that in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, whatnot. Disqualify ballots and say they are not good for the count because they weren't properly looked, they weren't properly vetted from other people, from the poll watchers, whatnot. Right. They were just illegally put in the machine, so therefore you have to discredit that, take it off the count, then flip the state to Donald Trump. That's the course of action, what he's trying to do.
Right. So I just want to comment on that real quick. So normally, I think we should have more people vote. Like, I think you want more votes, you want more democracy, you want all of this. But the Democratic Party has never given a damn about extending any sort of deadline. In fact, just this primary, they literally worked in tandem with the Republicans in Wisconsin to stop the extension of during the whole COVID thing, to stop the extension of these ballots. By the way, because guess who would have benefited from that? Bernie Sanders would have benefited from that. So this action where they're like saying, oh, well, this is disenfranchising a lot of voters. They already did that. Did that. So again, if we don't have a system where everything's fair, you can't just pretend and say, well, this is disenfranchising now because it suits my political ideology. They didn't give a damn. They actually stopped those ballots from counting. They stopped people from voting. They stopped the Green Party from even being there. They literally worked so hard to disenfranchise progressives during the primary. Yeah. And they got away with it because they screamed COVID, and no, we just need to get this done and blah, blah, blah. So now the whole retort to this is like, oh, are you on the side of disenfranchising voters? No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm on the side of, if you had something that was already set, and now you're backtracking just because it's convenient from you. I'm sorry, that's wrong. We should have already fixed it before. And
it's funny, too, fam, because you talk about this, because they really condition progressives to think this way, because the way they cheated Bernie Sanders in 2016 was by subtraction, okay? Purge voters from the rolls in Brooklyn, close down polling places so they can't vote, disqualify their ballots and push them into provisionals in California. So they won addition by subtraction, right? In this particular case, when it comes to Donald Trump, they didn't suppress any votes. They added to the count, you know what I'm saying, by stuffing the ballot box.
They did that too in this primary for Bernie this year more than they did in 2016. Yeah.
That's what they did. They inflated their counts because once the election integrity activists catch on in one area, a lot of people were looking into the software as far as the election integrity activists. They were pointing their fingers there, but then it seems like they moved over to the mail-ins and kind of inflated it that way because once you catch on to them, they keep on moving around. They throw about CIA tactics, 20 webs, 20 things out there. Hopefully you'll catch on to 10 of them, but the other 10 will work. Now, when you talk about what's going on in Pennsylvania, when it comes to the Secretary of State and her overstepping her boundaries and doing things with the elections that she shouldn't be doing, to me, this here is a smoking gun. And I don't know how they can validate this election with what was going on here. Before the election, the Secretary of State sent out a guidance concerning the examination of absentee and mail-in ballot return envelopes. And it pretty much goes off the whole case about what they're doing. When you talk about canvassing an envelope, that means opening it up, looking at it, whatnot. And they did this whole process in which they said they verified the signatures through the envelope. But if you look through this guide that she sent out, and she sent this out to all the election officials, and if you go to number 3 in the very, very bottom, Johnny, if you can put that up, because this is the most important thing. The way mail-in ballots are validated, they're supposed to be validated bipartisan, both teams looking at it, and you match the signatures. If the signatures match, it's good. It's the number one mechanism in which they use to validate ballots. In fact, they're using machines to do this now, but it is the number one method in which you can say that a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot is valid or not. It's the signature. It's all in the signature. Now, if you look at the bottom right here, she goes through all these things, and she says the Pennsylvania Election Code does not authorize the County Board of Elections to set aside return absentee or mail-in ballots based solely on signature analysis by the County Board of Elections. That's smoking gun right there. You can't do that. You can't say that it does not. You do not authorize them to put aside a mail-in ballot that doesn't have a matching signature. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. That's how you validate she's overstepping her boundaries again. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out because to me that's like no. The way you validate a mail-in ballot is bipartisan, both parties looking at it, making sure the signatures match. She's telling people to ignore this stuff. She's telling the Board of Elections to ignore that stuff. Fam, I think this is a smoking gun, but Who knows nowadays? Maybe they'll be able to get by this, but to me, no.
So essentially, she's telling them don't check the signatures on the ballots. And like we went over on Wednesday, even that alone isn't even enough because the machines are supposed to be validating these signatures, haven't been vetted. They've actually been found to be completely untrustworthy. And the people are supposed to do a 1% audit of these at least. And most of the time they don't even do that. And that's dependent on the county. It's dependent on the freaking poll worker, what the poll worker is told to do. You know, we're not even blaming the poll workers here. This is like way above their pay grade. And so that's what's going on right now. That's the reality. And I think you're right. That would be a smoking gun if people were paying attention. But unfortunately, people
really, to
don't get wonky with this.
Pennsylvania is just stuff in the ballot box, and you're going to say there's all these ballots can come in. You know what I'm saying? You don't even have to check the signatures. She's telling, this went out on September 11th, she's telling the Board of Elections not to set aside return absentee or mail-in ballots based solely on a signature analysis. And what are you supposed to check it with?
And the twist is, we want to make sure, spread democracy. We want to make sure that every vote counts and that everybody who wants to vote gets to vote. And that's the spin. It's like, it's not that I don't want people to vote. I want people to vote, and I want their vote to count in a system that's fair and transparent. Yeah. We don't have that right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Pennsylvania. More news from Pennsylvania. Biden stopped from adding to his lead. That was the next article. Just pretty much the ones that were set aside. The Secretary of State and the Board of Elections did set these other ballots that came in late, set aside. Remember, she tried to extend it by 3 days. Only the legislation can do that. So that was removed. And then I just have in the next tweet, just inside that box, Johnny, I just want to get because I couldn't find it anywhere else. It says the court concludes the respondent, Kathy Bachchavar, I can't even say her name, in official capacity as Secretary of the Commonwealth, lacked the statutory authority to issue November 1st guidance to respondents county. Yeah. Bukvar, I can't even say.
Bukvar.
But pretty much she just went outside her capacity. She overstepped her ability to do what she's supposed to do. She's not allowed to do that. In other words, what they're saying, she can't extend it. It's on the legislation herself. So they did stop them from adding on to their lead. And a couple people now, both houses in Pennsylvania are owned by Republicans. They're controlled by Republicans, but Pennsylvania rank and file lawmakers demand legislative audit before certifying election results. That's the next one. This is kind of interesting right now because this is the body saying, do not certify these results, these election results. Do not certify them. We want an audit. We want to go through this stuff. We want to make sure it's okay. So once again, for the Electoral College to vote, it's usually they take the certification from the state and they go from there. So if they're trying to block this on the state level, who knows what's going to happen? I don't know if this is enough, but they are kind of standing up and saying, no, don't certify these elections. And yeah, so we'll see what happens in Pennsylvania. A lot of stuff going on there. It seems like there's enough to really kind of, and here's the thing. I was thinking that a recount in Pennsylvania and Georgia and Michigan and Wisconsin wouldn't be good enough. We need an audit. We need to look at these ballots. Yeah. But if there's computer flipping going on, the hand recount might be enough to shorten the lead or whatnot or see what's going on. Once again, I still think we need an audit because there's too many ballots going in that they're not validated.
I think you need an audit or a hand recount is just
a hand recount. It's going to be interesting. It's going to see if the numbers are moved in a hand recount. That means the computers are plain and simple. They're flipping votes or they're not accurate. Or something's going on.
Which is what I'm trying to see here in L.A. County, but the machine-generated tally report that they, that they look against for the hand-counted 1% manual tally has not been shown to us.
Yeah.
And they've been delaying showing it to us. They've been delaying. There's no reason for why that shouldn't be there. And the fact that it's not there before they're hand counting, and if it automatically shows up after they're done hand counting, that means that they probably put whatever numbers there to verify their faulty machine.
Johnny, they're manipulating the law again. It says that you have to compare a 1% audit, right, to what's going on. The only thing is they used to give you the numbers first, you count after to make sure it match. Now they're asking you to do the counting first and stuff, and then they'll pull it up later so it matches up.
Right.
They're manipulating the law, and that's what they do in every single sense of the way. These states, when the body gets in there, they manipulate the laws as much as they can. Just as like we talked about the open source when Alex Padilla tried to change the definition. Oh, we have open source, but he tried to change the definition for the open source is. Oh, we're going to give you a 1% audit, but you're going to count first, and then we'll match it up after. So whatever you come up with, we'll go cherry pick the computer and make sure it matches.
Right.
It's a bullshit fugazi audit. It's not for real.
100%. So just to reiterate, Georgia's chief election official announced a recount of the presidential results. So Georgia is
underway.
That. And CNN today, like I said, projected that Georgia's still going to go to Joe Biden. Of course, that's their projection. We don't really know yet. It hasn't been called. So we'll see what happens.
We'll stand by. I mean,
we'll see what happens with
there
that.
were not today there were some bad losses for Donald Trump in the courts. You know, he got denied I think in Michigan in the state court.
Yeah.
He got denied in Pennsylvania, another case or something. There's multiple cases out there, so you're going to see some get denied. It's the ones that stick. Yeah. We'll see what happens. And once again, it's not about getting Donald Trump across the finish line. It's about having clean, fair, transparent elections.
Do you know why they denied it?
I didn't look completely. They said that it was not enough evidence to go forth. That, you know, it was pretty much just.
So if Trump thinks he has evidence, he could take it to the Court of Appeals.
Yes.
And then
he could take it to a state court. He could take it to a federal court. And if that doesn't work, eventually go to the Supreme Court.
Because these courts are also, unless you're very naive, these courts are definitely influenced by the people in power. So if the people in power surrounding the courts, and you know that here, don't want this to be heard at all, they're going to say there's not enough evidence. They always, it depends on the Secretary of State, who owns it, the territory. It's like gangsters. It really is. It's like, this is my gang, this is the other one. It depends on what it is. And Johnny's going to talk about that more in a minute. But
it's kind of like, too, we had this whole case with Stacey Abrams and what was going on in Georgia. Now, a lot of people in the election integrity activist community were really pissed off that they took it to state court rather than a federal court because they felt that Georgia wasn't going to overturn the rules no matter what. They're going to protect their own state. So a lot of election integrity activists were pissed off saying, hey, man, why are you taking this to the state court? You should take this to the federal court. But instead, they chose to go to the state court, and then they got shot down, wasted a lot of time and money, and then tried to kick it up again. But it cost a lot of money for these court cases. Yes. This was a state court in Michigan and a state court in Pennsylvania that were denied. So he's just going to keep kicking it up, but he's going to start at one level and keep going until he runs out of options. So your boy John Brennan.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So John Brennan, as you know, is a spook. That's like my favorite word lately. Spook. And John Brennan is the one that is basically calling for a coup. Now, a lot of people on the left, like Cenk Uygur, have been, Kyle Kulinski, all these people have been calling this a coup, saying, oh, Donald Trump is staging a coup. He wants to take over this country, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't want to step down from power. That idea didn't just start now. The Democrats have been pushing that for months, saying that Donald Trump's not going to step down. He's the tyrant. He's going to want to stay, blah, 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 blah. I don't believe that. I feel like if he literally loses, he's going to step down and Joe Biden will be the president. Yeah. I 100% don't believe that Donald Trump's just going to stay there because it just doesn't make sense to do that when you lose. Like, I think he's going to try to win, but I think there are a lot of people in his party who are part of the establishment he's pretty much alone, and there's not that many people with him on this. So
with Trump,
with Trump, yeah. So this is he's basically urging, okay, because remember he was the ex-CIA director. He's basically urging a palace coup against Donald Trump to stop these declassifications, which is kind of like you're making Trump look better than he is by saying that he's pulling all these declassifications. And so John Brennan told this to Chris Cuomo, saying he feared the president could declassify sensitive information or give military orders that would undermine U.S., quote, national security interests. I love those three words, unquote, and urged Mike Pence to actually seize power. So this is the kind of shit I'm talking about. And I have to get it from Sputnik News because nobody else is talking about this. How the hell are you going to want? Mike Pence is worse. Like, I don't want Mike Pence to seize power. What's wrong with you? Like, in what world is that a good thing? So let's play the video because there's a video. And just let's hear it for a little bit, and then you can do that.
Hold on. So you're telling me a spook is scared of what Trump is going to do in the last 70 days in office? That's kind of interesting,
right?
There.
Isn't that telling?
That's really interesting.
To me,
this guy is the guy he should be locked up. He committed a crime. He was part of the coup against Donald Trump to give the American people false information that Russia tried to hack our elections, and which, by the way, I guess we're clear of Russia hacking these elections. Now it's going to be China.
It's so dumb.
So stupid.
Former CIA Director John Brennan. He's got a new book out, by the way, Undaunted, My Fight Against America's Enemies at Home and abroad. Good to see you, sir.
Good evening, Chris.
So people hear this news, that's Trump being Trump. It'll pass. What are they missing?
They're missing what is a very, very worrisome development. It's clear that Mark Esper was removed as Secretary of Defense because he rebuffed Donald Trump's efforts to politicize the U.S. military. And I think it's quite apparent from the reporting that Mark Esper has stood up to Donald Trump repeatedly. Who knows what else he has refused to do? And the Secretary of Defense position is, I think, the most consequential position in the U.S. government aside from the President of the United States, because it is the Secretary of Defense who carries out the orders given by a president for military operations. And if Mark Esper has been pushed aside because he is not, listening to Donald Trump, carrying out these orders, who knows what his successor, this acting secretary, Chris Miller, is going to do if Donald Trump does give some type of order that really is counter to, I think, what our national security interests need to be.
One more rebuttal to his shoulder shrug. 70 days. He'll be gone in 70 days anyway, once the Electoral College meets and we have the inauguration.
70 days, you can do a lot of damage in 70 days. He still is the president of the United States. And is he going to carry out these vendettas against other individuals, as you pointed out, Chris Wray or Gina Haspel or others? It is clear that Donald Trump is trying to exercise the power because he can, and he is going to settle scores. But I'm very concerned what he might do in his remaining 70 days in office. Is he going to take some type of military action? Is he going to release some type of information that could, in fact, threaten our national security interests? So I think people need to be looking very carefully at what he's doing. And unfortunately, Republicans in Congress continue to give Donald Trump a pass.
All right, so this is the key question. What can be done? Short of him messing with the Electoral College and trying to have Republican or friendlies pick their own electors and, go grand scale with faithless electors, what can be done to stop anything he wants to do in the next 70 days?
Well, if Vice President Pence and the cabinet had an ounce of fortitude and spine and patriotism, I think they would seriously consider invoking the 25th Amendment and pushing Donald Trump out, because he is just very unpredictable now. He's like a cornered tiger, and he is going to lash out. And the fact that, again, that he has the powers of the presidency in his hands is quite worrisome. Now, we know that the Attorney General Barr has done Donald Trump's bidding in the past. Will he continue to do that vis-a-vis this election? I don't know. But I do think it's something that the members of Congress, the leadership of the Republican Party, really needs to send clear signals to Donald Trump that if he continues to go along this path, they are going to put up roadblocks.
What do you make of the Attorney General saying that his investigators before the Electoral College will look at substantial allegations of voting irregularities? As you and I both know, irregularities is not a legal standard or any kind of criminal rubric. But what do you make of that?
Well, I think it's an unprecedented move. And again, since William Barr has shown that he is willing to be Donald Trump's personal defense lawyer as opposed to the Attorney General of the United States, I am concerned that he's going to be looking at this in a very one-sided manner. And so I think this is something that hopefully the state attorney generals and others are going to stand fast. And also the Department of Justice professionals are going to carry out their duties irrespective of whatever type of political winds they feel are blowing their way.
John Brennan.
Okay.
Deep state spook. John Brennan with us. Later on, we'll have James Clapper for more advice on what we should do. CIA running our country. This really, to tell you the truth, I don't know, you probably couldn't see my body language, but I sat back in upset disgust and just disbelief and what's going on in this country, and that the left is completely pushing CIA narratives. It's counter against our national security needs, and I mean, we're listening to this guy. This guy should be locked the fudge up, and yet
you people are choosing, a lot of people are choosing to believe in CNN, New York Times. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I got thrown like, well, the AP and CNN, they know what they're doing. The AP
they're
calls,
experts.
they're experts. They have their,
they're
like,
experts.
Why? Since when did you become a bootlicker for the establishment? I mean, let's be real. Just because you hate Donald Trump so much, this obviously has nothing to do with Donald Trump. I mean, they're scared. They are scared that this guy is just going to get angry in his last few days.
Is he going to expose?
And he's going to expose. But these are so okay, so a lot of the Q people kept saying, well, Donald Trump's going to expose and blah, 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 blah. And it would be hilarious if he did. I don't count on it. Because I still think at the end of the day, Donald Trump is part of the elites. He is a billionaire. He has a lot more in common with these people than he does with you guys. So, but I think they're scared of that possibility because he might get angry and he might be, you know what, screw all of you. And he might start releasing and declassifying. He has declassified some things. Like, this isn't coming out of nowhere. So it's just really interesting to me. And the fact that so many people are just buying this narrative, do you not realize that you're agreeing with spooks like this guy? You're agreeing with CNN, with MSNBC, who, by the way, 3 of these people left to go work for Joe Biden's campaign already. Did you know that? I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous what's going on right now.
He should go nuts right now. Donald Trump should go nuts, fam. He should
free Assange.
Free Assange. Pardon your boy. Hey, pardon your boy Stone, Flynn. Then free Assange.
Election
pardon Assange,
integrity.
Pardon Snowden. Just go crazy right now. Start pardoning these people that are going to really piss you off because you know Brennan and Clapper would be so upset if they pardoned Julian Assange and let him go. They would be so upset. They've been after that guy for so long. Jim Garrison said, here's a $5. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Natural Progressive /
Thank you.
Roar. We love you. Roar Media. You know, guys, like, share, subscribe. We got 220 people with the thumbs up, 5 people down. We don't have many trolls today. And they're here, Sergeant Hootie. Is it Hodel or Hodel? I can't even.
Remind me. What do we know about Mark Esper?
Mark Esper was just fired. He was one of the.
But before that, you know what? Is he a spook? Is he a super spook? I mean, is he like one of those spooks?
He but he was once again he was a leftover from the Obama appointees, and a lot of people felt that the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, that Donald Trump didn't clear out enough of these people, that a lot of these loyalists are still intact over there, and they're actually working against them. That's why we're trying to see where his allies, who aren't his allies, whatnot. This guy was also pushing against too, as well as far as like the whole investigating of the election, whatnot. He was like, well, no, I'm not even getting involved in this. And there was a couple people like that. You know, there was another guy, I forgot his name, who also quit too as well. So a lot of people said this move was coming. Once again, I didn't look closely enough to see it because I didn't have enough knowledge within DHS to know who's what. I know who the big players are and who's part of the Clintons and the Obama leftovers. But this is the thing. A lot of people thought that, when Donald Trump got in, he should have cleaned house completely in DHS.
He said he would, but he didn't. So.
He left a lot of people that were layovers, leftovers that were Obama loyalists, Clinton loyalists, Democratic Party loyalists. And as we know, there's been a civil war going on. We talk about Clapper and Brennan. They got caught, once again, planning to have a soft coup against the president when he got in. Yeah. So you have people like McCabe and all these other people that were still left over that eventually got fired. But, I mean, he didn't clean the swamp inside the intelligence community because there's still a lot of people involved.
There's just so
it's
many.
so hard to do that, and the power they have. And that's what this is showing you right now. The power that the intelligence community has. They have the media in their pocket they can use. They can set a narrative. They can go there and they can say Bud Trump and get away with whatever they want.
And
their neocon ways.
And a lot of these people are buying it. Even on the left, the progressive left, they're all buying it. Like, you're going to start trusting these people now all of a sudden because you hate Trump? Come on, guys. Clear your head.